A child's mental health is just as important as their physical health. When children have healthy minds, they learn, grow, and connect with others. They experience joy, handle challenges, and develop into well-rounded individuals. Prioritizing mental health during childhood sets the stage for happier and more fulfilling life. Imagine a garden where flowers bloom in vibrant colors. Each flower represents a child's potential, their talents, dreams, and aspirations. Just like plants need sunlight and water, children thrive when their mental and emotional needs are met. When children struggle with mental health challenges, it's like a shadow falling over the garden. Their growth may be stunted, and their true colors may fade. As parents, caregivers, and educators, we have a responsibility to nurture their minds and provide the support they need to flourish. By understanding the importance of child mental health, we can recreate an environment where every child has opportunity to bloom. Childhood is a time of immense growth and discovery, but it can also be a period of challenges and stress. Children may face academic pressures, social anxieties, or family conflicts that can impact their mental well-being. One of the most common mental health challenges in children is anxiety. Children with anxiety may experience excessive worry, fear, or nervousness. They may have difficulty sleeping, concentrating, or participating in activities they once enjoyed. Another common challenge is depression, which can manifest as persistent sadness, loss of interest, or changes in appetite or sleep patterns. Children with depression may withdraw from friends and family or engage in self-destructive behaviors. Attention deficit or hyperactivity disorder or ADHD is another prevalent concern. Children with ADHD may have difficulty paying attention, controlling impulses, or sitting still. This can lead to problems in school, at home, and in social situations. It's important to remember that mental health challenges are not a sign of weakness. They are real medical conditions that require understanding, support, and appropriate intervention. Child psychiatry is a specialized field of medicine that focuses on the diagnosis, treatment, and prevention of mental, emotional, and behavioral disorders in children and adolescents. Child psychiatrists are medical doctors who have received extensive training in child and adolescent development, psychopathology, and therapeutic interventions. They use a variety of approaches to assess and treat children, including psychiatric evaluation. This involves gathering information about the child's history, symptoms, and family dynamics through interviews, observations, and standardized assessments. Therapy is an essential component of treatment. Child psychiatrists may use various therapeutic techniques such as play therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, or family therapy to help children understand and manage their emotions, thoughts, and behaviors. Medication management is also an option. In some cases, medication may be recommended to help alleviate symptoms and improve the child's overall functioning. Child psychiatrists carefully consider the risks and benefits of medication and work closely with families to monitor its effectiveness. Child psychiatrists work collaboratively with parents, caregivers, educators, and other professionals to create a comprehensive treatment plan tailored to child's individual needs. As parents, we play a vital role in supporting our children's mental health. While seeking professional help is crucial when needed, there are many things we can do at home to foster their emotional well-being. Open communication. Create a safe and supportive environment where children feel comfortable talking about their feelings without fear of judgment. Quality time. Set aside dedicated time each day for one-on-one interactions with your child. Engage in activities they enjoy, such as reading, playing games, or simply talking. Healthy habits. Encourage healthy lifestyle choices such as regular exercise, a balanced diet, and adequate sleep. These habits can have a significant impact on mood, energy levels, and overall well-being. Stress management. Teach children healthy coping mechanisms for stress, such as deep breathing exercises, mindfulness techniques, or engaging in hobbies they enjoy. Positive reinforcement. Focus on your child's strengths and celebrate their successes, no matter how small. Positive reinforcement can boost their self-esteem and motivate them to overcome challenges. Remember, parenting is a journey, not a destination. There will be ups and downs along the way. By being patient, understanding, and proactive, we can empower our children to develop resilience and navigate life's challenges with confidence. Supporting children's mental health means listening to their concerns, encouraging open communication, and teaching them coping strategies. It also involves promoting a balanced lifestyle with adequate rest, nutrition, and physical activity. Building strong, trusting relationships helps children feel secure and valued. Let us work together to ensure that every child has the chance to grow into a happy, healthy, and resilient individual. By prioritizing mental health today, we are planting seeds for a brighter, more promising future.
Okay, so heads up, this TED Talk should probably come with some kind of warning label. And that's because I'm going to be talking to you about some hard stuff: depression, anxiety, and suicide in children and teenagers. But I'm a psychologist, and the first rule of therapy is that nobody leaves the room feeling worse than they did than when they came in. So you are in good hands, I promise. I'm going to tell you why our healthcare system routinely gets it all wrong when we treat child and adolescent mental health problems, and why the most helpful treatment available isn't the one that we turn to first, or second, or even third for that matter. What if I were to tell you that if your son or daughter, niece or nephew struggles with a mental health issue, the power to best help lies within your own family? What if I were to tell you that family is medicine? Okay, here's the problem. Rates of childhood depression, anxiety, and suicide are on the rise, and that was before a global pandemic. According to a recent study, the number of children and teens in the United States who visited emergency rooms for suicidal thoughts and suicide attempts doubled over a 10-year period. And tragically, school shootings have become all too common. What in the world is going on with our kids? Now, nobody really knows for sure, but a recent study published by the American Psychological Association suggests that this trend toward increased psychological distress began when most teenagers got access to smartphones and other devices. So even though we've become better connected by technology, families have become increasingly disconnected from one another. And teenagers are especially affected by this. Now, we've all seen families at a restaurant having dinner together, right? But everyone is more connected to their devices than they are to each other. Today, I want to tell you why this trend toward family disconnection and time on devices is so dangerous, and share some ideas that can help bring us back together again. My professional experience and my research show that the best way to treat challenges in adolescent mental health starts with a focus on the family, not on the individual child. First, let's look at how the healthcare system typically addresses the treatment of children with mental health problems. Here's what happens now. Let's say a teenage girl struggles. Her parents might, understandably, send her to a therapist. Seems like the thing to do, except the problem is that we treat this kid as if we're dropping our car off for an oil change. Fix her up and I'll be back in an hour. Now, early in my practice, I saw children individually, as most therapists are trained to do, but these kids weren't getting a whole lot better, still depressed and still anxious. My first thought was, well, Paul, maybe you're just not a very good therapist, which is entirely plausible, except I also see adults in my practice, and generally speaking, most of them get a lot better. So after years of working with kids in individual therapy, I started to wonder, what am I missing? What am I getting wrong? What's fundamentally different about treating kids as compared to adults? And I had some clues. There is one thing that kids regularly talk about in individual therapy, a source of frequent upset to them, something that they feel almost powerless to change. You guessed it. Their families, mom, dad, brothers, sisters, you name it. So after 25 years of working with children, I became a family researcher. And after conducting the largest research study to date on family dynamics, here's what I found. Family dynamics that cause disconnection have a high correlation with the onset and severity of a child's mental health condition. Family disconnection is failing our children. I looked at a sample of over 27,000 families who had children with mental health problems. And here's what I discovered. Families who argue, don't listen to each other, fight, and live separate, disconnected lives in different corners of the house had children who were the most depressed, anxious, and suicidal. I've broken my research down into a couple key points for you to digest. To the left, you can see how the severity of depression is worse for kids whose families don't function well, argue, don't communicate, fight, etc. But we see as functionality improves to the right, the severity of depressive symptoms decreases. And here we can see exactly the same relationship for kids who are suicidal. But let me be super clear about something. I do not believe that parents are necessarily the cause of their children's mental health problems. Far from it. Many forms of mental illness have a genetic or a biological component. Parents, however, almost always blame themselves. And not every parent that comes into my office will say this out loud, but scratch the surface and there's an immediate outpouring of guilt and shame. I messed my kid up. Now, it's true that parents who are physically or emotionally abusive can cause their children tremendous psychological damage. This is well established by research. But thankfully, this isn't most families. So while I strongly believe that parents usually aren't the cause of their child's depression or anxiety, here's what my research tells me. The more poorly a family functions, the more serious the child's mental health condition. Okay, that's important. But here's what's even more important. A well-connected family, one that listens to each other, solves problems without turning them into huge battles, stays relatively calm under stress, is peaceful, loving, playful, and affectionate. That family is a buffer against mental illness, a shield, if you will, and a shield against the negative effects that can come from the child's broader social world. Here's an example. A kid, Theo, encounters a problem of some sort. He's getting bullied at school, he's offered a vape pen, sees something horrible on the internet he doesn't understand, or maybe he learns yet another classmate has died by suicide. Imagine then that Theo goes home, tells the story to his parents, who then offer him advice, comfort, and support. My research shows that Theo will navigate this stress much more successfully than if he's shut down, distant, and disconnected from his family. A not so well-functioning family leaves our kids feeling isolated and alone to face a world that they're too young and ill-equipped to understand. A well-functioning family gives kids a sense of safety and security. As parents, we are the antidote to what frightens them. Families are our world, and families at their core are about connection. Every high school student today has grown up in the shadow of Columbine, the first school massacre to make our radar. And what do we hear is the one thing that every kid does in an active shooter situation, terrified, huddled together in the dark at the worst moment of their lives. They call home. They call home. Mom, I'm scared, I love you. And what do parents do? They go into full protection mode, find some place to hide, and don't you make a sound. The connection we have to our families is what defines us all. And in the end, I think it's the only thing that really matters. And when that connection is damaged or in some cases completely broken, children and teenagers suffer. And they end up in my office or worse yet, in an emergency room. Okay, so we all want a peaceful, loving family. Who doesn't? As a family therapist, I know it's a lot more complicated than just telling parents to say, stop arguing with your kid. Let's be honest, arguing is easy. Not arguing is hard. How do we do this exactly? Here's an example of what I mean. Let's start with just one component of a well-functioning family, low reactivity. Now, there are quite a few other components to a well-functioning family, like being warm and affectionate, playful, good communicators, and so on. But let's focus on just this one, low reactivity. I define low reactivity as the parent's ability to stay calm and matter-of-fact in situations that could lead to conflict. You can think of it as Zen parenting, if you like. High reactivity, in contrast, looks like this. Something goes sideways in a family, as it often does. Some sort of problem occurs. Parents usually start off reasonably chill, but the kid talks back. Now they argue. The parents start to get hotter, louder, sharper, and what does the kid do? He yells back, mirrors them exactly, or maybe he withdraws entirely and goes to his room, slams the door. Either way, he hasn't felt heard or his opinion respected. The parent thinks the kid's at fault, and the kid thinks what? Exactly, the parent's at fault. Changing this dynamic starts with a commitment, and it's this, that no matter what the issue, no matter how upsetting the problem or how disrespectful the kid becomes, we as parents decide that under no circumstances are we going to raise our voice and speak harshly to our kids. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, that's impossible. I get mad sometimes. Isn't that normal, right? Of course that's normal. You can have whatever feelings you want. You just can't do and say whatever you want. Look, I have kids too, and I know how hard this is. And despite having made this commitment to myself as a young parent, believe me, I got it wrong with my two daughters plenty of times. But as parents, we set the tone. We need to establish and hold the high moral ground. You can't tell your kid to speak to you respectfully if you're not doing it yourself. Teenagers have great hypocrisy meters, and they will call us on our BS every single time. Now, I have parents tell me all the time, my son or daughter doesn't listen to me until I raise my voice. Yes, that's true, because you have taught them not to take you seriously until you do raise your voice. They've learned to ignore your first 4 or 5 requests to clean their room, and in turn, you've taught them that yelling works, which makes it more likely you're going to do it again. Well, if yelling works, what's wrong with it? The problem is it makes both the parent and the kid feel bad. In addition, kids stop listening to the words and only dial into the yelling. All they hear is mad. And I'm sure you'll agree, yelling isn't a great strategy for solving problems with people. Who among us hasn't at one point said something hurtful to a family member? I think one of the great ironies of the human condition is that we save our worst behavior for the people we love the most. And why is this? Shouldn't it be the reverse? Shouldn't we speak to our loved ones in the most loving way? Now, I'll confess that I've said things to my wife during an argument I would not dream of saying to anybody else. Not a boss, not a friend, not even a stranger on the street. And why? Because I think it comes down to a choice, where we decide certain behavior is acceptable and where it isn't. I know if I talk to my boss that way, I'd be fired. And I'm pretty sure my wife isn't going to fire me, which isn't to say she might not have thought about that from time to time. Let me give you an example of why reactivity in a family can be so dangerous and lead to disconnection. I work with a teenage boy, and to protect his privacy, let's call him Josh, who came to see me because his parents thought he was depressed and angry, which is true. Josh was an otherwise typical teenager in every other respect, decent grades, played football, and he had a part-time job. As we got to know each other, Josh revealed to me that he had a plan to take his own life. He didn't tell me how he was going to do it, but he did tell me when. When was in about a month after his girlfriend was scheduled to move out of the area, who, as far as I could tell, was the only person Josh was connected to. So I asked him, Josh, your parents know you're thinking about doing this. Have you talked with them? And he said, no. Well, why not? I'm curious. And he said, well, why should I tell them? They don't listen to me. All my family does is fight and yell. I don't talk to them about anything anymore. And I said, so This makes me wonder, your parents will only learn you were hurting so much after you're gone. They will never even know that you were thinking about taking your life. And he said, oh, they'll know. How? At this point, he pulls out his phone and he shows it to me and says, because I've made a video of myself on my phone saying goodbye to them, that they'll find after I'm gone. Whoa. This is not my usual therapist poker face. So is Josh disconnected from his family? Totally. Is the anger and upset in his family the cause of his suicidal thoughts? No, not necessarily. But is it working against him? Totally. So as you might imagine, a lot of the clinical work with this boy entailed getting him to open up to his parents and helping his family communicate more peacefully. I'm happy to say the ending to this story is a good one. Josh is alive and well to this day. Okay, so connection in families is crucial. If you're ready to have a healthier, better connected family, let me help you. I've learned there are 3 steps in changing our behavior, and I'm going to teach them to you now. Step 1, and you've already heard me say this, make a commitment. Decide you want to do something different and make the commitment to behave in a better way. Now I'll let you in on a little secret. The harder behavior is to change, the more you're going to have to want it. I ask the families that I work with to make the commitment to me and to each other that they will work to become a no-yelling family. They just won't do it because it matters that much to them. And I hope all of you will make that commitment now too. Now, we wouldn't be human if we didn't make mistakes. So I'm not asking you to get this right every single time. Like I said, I didn't. Nobody does. But each of us can aim for most of the time. Okay, now you're ready to start changing. What's next? Step 2, we need to adopt behavioral alternatives, or what I think of as calling a different play. There's a saying among psychologists, if you keep doing what you're doing, you'll keep getting what you got. So if your son or daughter starts to become disrespectful, rather than raise your voice, it's time to call a different play, and it sounds like this. I'm not going to argue with you, and I don't care for the way you're speaking to me. Happy to keep talking, but not when you use that tone of voice. Dial it back, please. Or go to your room and cool off if you need to, and then come again and we can try it over. Calm, matter-of-fact, but firm. Zen parenting. There are dozens of plays like this, skills you can use that you can call on in tough situations. A good family therapist can teach you what these new skills are. And if the idea of seeing a therapist is a new one for you, just think of us as a coach, teaching you new skills that lead to a healthier family. We can teach you how not to argue with your kids, how to help them be more respectful, and how to get them to open up to you in those times where they need you the most. Step 3 in behavior change is practice, 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 over and over, so many times that the new behavior becomes a habit. Somebody once said that to form a new habit, you have to practice the new behavior every day for 21 days. Now that sounds suspiciously like a made-up number, but you get the idea. You got into the habit of yelling at your kids, you can get out of the habit of yelling. Reduce reactivity in families and connection goes up. Connection also goes up when families spend time together and off of devices. They communicate well and solve problems peacefully through collaboration and compromise. Families are the medicine. My research shows that improving healthy family interactions is a far more effective way to treat mental illness than focusing our clinical attention on the child alone. Don't just park your kid in endless individual therapy. 40 years of research show that family therapy is effective in treating childhood mental illness. Let's make it a first-line treatment, not a second or a third. Find a good family therapist that does a mixture of some individual therapy for your son or daughter, a lot of family therapy with all of you together, and some sessions with just you to learn new habits that work so that you can let go of the old ones that don't. Teaching families how to be consistently warm, loving, and kind is the key to our children's mental wellness. And establishing a loving, close connection brings kids out of their bedrooms, off those devices, and back into the arms of the people who love them the most. This is the message I'm hoping we can spread together. The power of family is the antidote to a disconnected world. Thank you.